because we have choices, because everybody's good, we have to be ridiculously easy to do business with. And when we say no to things that we could easily say yes, and they know we can say yes, that doesn't engender the kind of support and commitment and loyalty that we all aspire to with our customers and clients.
Helping you create loyal customers and loyal employees, all through the power of simplicity. This is the Simple Brand Podcast, now heard around the world, including Woodbury, Minnesota. I'm your host, Matt Lyles, and this week I'm talking with David Avrin. David's one of the most popular customer experience speakers and consultants in the world. In fact, over the past 25 years, David shared his lessons on competitive advantage with leaders and teams from thousands of organizations in 26 countries around the world. And David's the best-selling author of 6 books, including his latest, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With, a practical guide to giving customers what they want, how, and when they want it. All right, we need to get something straight here. Too many brands have the mistaken belief that they can differentiate on their product. They think that simply having a quality product is what helps them brand out from the crowd. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's simply not the case. Having a quality product, having a quality service is just the requirement to be able to play. But if you want your brand to not only survive, but actually thrive, you've got to deliver an experience that makes your customer's life easier. You've got to make it simple. Too many brands are actually going the opposite route. And you recognize this because you see it most every day. You most likely experience this with at least 1 to 2 brands every day. It's those experiences and interactions that make you ask, why do they have to do it that way? Why does it have to be that complicated? Why can't they make this easier? But did you ever stop to think that your brand may be doing the same thing to your customers? It turns out there are lots of policies, employee behaviors, and interactions that actually make your customer's life complicated and harder. It's frustrating to them, and it's likely the main culprit that's causing your customers to leave. And here's the thing. You're probably aware of some of these things in your customer experience, but you're also probably not aware of all of them. Some of them are so ingrained into your business that you see it as normal and simply assume your customer's probably okay with it. Well, they're not. So it's time to step out and learn what are those things that cause customers the most frustration. David's identified 25 of the most common ways you're likely making your customer's life harder. Thankfully, he's also identified the ways to turn them around to make their life, and really, in turn, your life, easier. So here it is. Here's my interview with David Avrin. Hey, David. Welcome to the Simple Brand Podcast.
Thank you, my friend. It's great to be here with you and your hordes of listeners and viewers because we're doing video as well, yes?
That's it. Yeah. I want everyone to see how cool both of our hairstyles look.
We have cool hair.
We do. That's what it's about. We were saying this earlier, talking about the importance of your visual identity in your personal brand. And
you want to be memorable.
You got a good one. I think I've got a good one too.
I appreciate that. I just sort of equated to everything that we're doing. We're all in business. We all own businesses, run businesses, or leadership positions. Anything you can do to stand out and be memorable. What's different today is what resonates,
That's
and
it.
well, I don't want to jump in too early, but I think the world has just changed so much. What was really powerful in the 70s or 80s or 90s is table stakes today. And you look for every way to, how does a business really effectively stand out and be more than just competent, but preferable? There's the tease for our show today. We're going to talk about how do we become preferable and not just competent.
And one of the ways to become preferable, one of the ways to really stand out, and this just surprises me that this is the way to stand out, is by being ridiculously easy to do business with. Congrats on the new book.
Thank you very much. And it sort of came out of so many conversations. I've been fortunate that I've had one-on-one conversations with over 8,000 company leaders and CEOs over the past 20 years. And as I said, it's changing. If you ask leaders today, what's your secret sauce? What's your competitive advantage? It's always some version of it. Quality, number one. It's our quality. Commitment, caring, trust. It's about our people. It's our people that make the difference. And I look at them and I'm like, you really believe that, don't you? Your people were born on some special customer service island and trained for 20 years in big open air ninja courtyards. And at 21 years old, they stood in front and said, you are now ready to go. So go
to this brand, to just this one.
And we all have good people. We're all sharing the same people. But you're right. I think the real differentiator today from a customer experience perspective, and I think it's so crucial, everybody's good. Prices are comparable or companies wouldn't survive. Who is a frictionless process? Who's frustrating their customers and clients? You get somebody in and all of a sudden you can't talk to a real person. All of a sudden they're saying no for stupid things. For me, and this is the brand I'm all in, it's the new book, ridiculously easy to do business with, a practical guide to giving customers what they want, when and how they want it. And should that not be obvious? It is, but it isn't. It's one of those things that it's simple, but it's not easy because businesses are looking for some measure of predictability in our process, right? Here's how we do what we do. And if we do it this right way, our customers will learn about it this way and they will reach out and communicate and select and buy and customize and pay and deliver that customer journey. If we can predict it, if we can be fairly consistent, then we have a greater predictability of our revenue and our cash flow, and we can plan for that. We can hire for that. The problem is your customers haven't read your employee manual. They don't know how they're supposed to do that. They just know how they want to, and how they want to do it is changing. And when we don't run businesses or interact in a way that's convenient for them, they get frustrated and they leave for competitors for one reason, because they can.
Yeah. So how do you think we got to this point? What got us here to where so many companies, so many brands are actually not easy, are actually pretty complicated?
Yeah. And it's interesting how we did get here. And I think we got here because we're in a really interesting age. I mean, first of all, of course, the conveniences are pervasive, right? Everything we can get that we can afford quickly. I have 3 Amazon warehouses near where I live in Denver, Colorado. Most everything I get same day, right? It's ridiculously easy. But I think we got here because there's so many things that we can't control in business. We can't control our competitors. We can't control supply chain, pandemics. So we work to try and control what we can as much as we can. And then we get scripted empathy. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Lyle. I understand how frustrating that much. And you want to go like, don't read the script, right? And so I think where we got here is that we're trying to create some predictability in our business processes. And here's how we train. And if we can do these things the same, the problem is we've changed and we're all customers and clients and prospects and patients. And there's so many unique scenarios, and we're finding, interestingly, less flexibility at a time when we need more. We need to find ways to say yes. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't do that. I mean, sometimes the answer is no, right? If you have a vegan restaurant, somebody wants a buffalo burger. Sorry, dude, it's a hard no. But the companies that are really smart, who have some measure of flexibility, who are focusing less on teaching their team policy quoting and more on guidelines, providing guidelines for what they do. I like the idea of show your people as opposed to scripting out, here's what we do and here's how we do it every time. Because then the people are talking to a brick wall and we get frustrated. Pull back the curtain. Show your team, here's how we make money. Here's what the lifetime value of our customers are. Here's what accommodating those requests, those unique scenarios, here's what it means to them. And here's what it means to our business and the bottom line and your job security. And then give them parameters, right? The most famous, of course, is Nordstrom, that you don't need to get a manager. Anything under $100 or whatever, they have the authority to do.
That's right.
There's a version of that works for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of flexibility, recognizing omni-channel, it's one of the things I talk, because I speak for a living. when we're talking to organizations and say, listen, look at all your customers and look at the broad range of ages and demographics. However they want to pay you, find a way to let them, however they want to communicate with you. Because how somebody at 80 years old wants to communicate is different than somebody who's 23. And that kind of flexibility is important.
It is, yeah. I like how you use the term guidelines. Instead of rules, here are the guidelines. And it helps for employees to understand, here are the guardrails for you to stay inside. Here's where you're going to be okay. If you feel empowered to make decisions within these guardrails, your job is secure. Here's where you don't go outside of the guardrails. So
here's where you go to a supervisor for insider permission or something like that.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is, Matt, I think we say, and I understand why, we say no to stupid things because sometimes it's an easy yes. I'll give you an example. I talk about this on stage. I was leaving a hotel one morning. It was probably 7 a.m. and I was going to a speaking gig. And I stopped at the front desk and I said, I need to do a late checkout, please. And I started walking out. She goes, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. We're not doing any late checkouts today. We have a conference coming in and my manager said we can't do any late checkouts. I'm so sorry. And I said, I literally can't. I speak till noon. And she said, well, you have to be out by noon. I'm so sorry. If you can't be out by noon, we're going to have to charge you for a second day. And then she gives me the yikes face, like just straight, like, yikes, sorry, right?
All right.
I tease this. And so I looked at her and I said, okay, I understand that your manager told you that. Here's the reality. I can't be out. So I'm just not going to check out. If you're going to charge me for an extra day, then I legally get to keep it. So I'm just going to keep the room and not check out. But now you don't have a room for that conference attendee who's flying in. Is that the outcome you were looking for? And she's like, just a minute. She goes in the back room and she comes back out. 1 o'clock would be fine. I'm like, you think?
Of course it will.
But let's be fair. Did she want to say yes to me? Of course she did. She had a lazy manager who said, treat everybody the same. And it's scary for leaders in business because they don't want chaos. They don't want anarchy. And I get that. But the reality, the number of people who really want some kind of accommodation is relatively small. And it's easier for us to predict saying no. But what does it mean to them when we find a way to say yes? Sometimes the answer is no, right? But the best response is, even if the answer has to be no, is you acknowledge that. And then here's the line. Let me tell you what I can do.
Yes.
Right? Just that. Let me tell you what I can do. And anything that follows that is helpful is so appreciated. It might be offering something in lieu of what you couldn't offer. It might be a referral to someone else, another mechanism, or even if it's like, we don't have the answer, but let me tell you what I can do. I'm going to put a note on my calendar at 7 a.m. for the next week. And every day I'm going to check on it and shoot you a note and let you know the status or whatever that is. Because we have choices, because everybody's good, we have to be ridiculously easy to do business with. And when we say no to things that we could easily say yes, and they know we can say yes, that doesn't engender the kind of support and commitment and loyalty that we all aspire to with our customers and clients.
That's it. I think part of it comes down to, it comes down to a few things. One, it comes down to empowering your front line to be able to make some decisions within those guardrails. And two, it comes down to helping your front line understand, what's the question behind the question, or what's the goal behind the goal the customer has. And so if you can't provide this one thing, what is it that the customer's really looking for? And so how can you help them meet that goal? And then be able to say, here's what we can do to help you meet that goal.
Sure. And I think for those listening, we're talking also about a very specific business model. And we have a lot of business models that we deal with on a regular basis. So one of the things I try to do in my book, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With, because I need to say the title of my book repeatedly, is I came up with so many different areas of our life and our interactions, and maybe some of them we didn't normally think about. There's some ridiculously easy to get a hold of a real person, right? Or ridiculously easy to whatever that might be. But then there's also, are you ridiculously easy to return or exchange? And why is that important? Is because if people think it's going to be hard, they're less likely to make the purchase in the first place, right? Ridiculously easy to see the price. At the beginning of every chapter, I have the title and then I remember that one. And the gist of that one was, stop playing games with price. It makes you look slimy, right? It's like the old Amway salesperson. It's like, have you thought about owning what is this Amway? Let me tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It is an opportunity to own your future. Is this Amway? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It's like, is it freaking Amway, right?
Answer the question.
And answer the question. My wife and I we were looking at some mountain property and the log cabin builders.
Nice.
And we found one we liked. There was a button that said, click here for the price. So I clicked here. Did I get the price? Of course not. I got a contact form. Because why? Because they want to call me, but that's not what they said, click here for the price. And it was misleading. So I didn't fill out the form. Nobody wants to fill out a form. 86% of people will never fill out a contact form. Stop being hard to reach. Stop playing games with price. Throughout the book, I try to detail things that we might not think about. I'm sort of looking at the table of contents. How do you ridiculously easy to see the price or to return or to trust or to try before you buy? People give a free month trial, but it's not free, is it? No.
Well, you got to put your credit card in.
You got to give them your credit card.
And you got to remember to go in
cancel it if you don't.
They're going to charge you. Yeah.
And they count on the fact that you're not going to remember. I think it's a slimy way to do business. But what it does for us as customers, we are less likely to sign up for a free trial because we know we have to give a credit card number. And now I understand businesses, nobody's trying to be nefarious. Nobody's trying to be disingenuous. He's trying to feed their families. But what I try to do in the book is to point out certain behaviors that make sense to some extent from the business's perspective. But for us, it causes friction. And when we have friction, it becomes a less desirable option. If we do something and we wonder, are they going to be able to get it to us on time? Or if we worry that we're going to be automatically charged for the next year for an app that we didn't even know we had, we're less likely to move forward with the purchase. And so one of the biggest challenges of business, and there's whole companies that just deal with this, is the whole issue of abandoned shopping carts. Why? And there are reasons why people abandon shopping carts. Was there a surprise? Was there the zinger, the gotcha moment?
Yeah.
Was it, it was great, we were really excited, and then we realized it's going to cost just as much to ship the item as to buy it in the first place. That's what we do, right? As consultants, as speakers and authors, is help advise organizations. Here's how to smooth the path. Here's how to reduce friction.
Yeah.
And to not be a good choice, but to be a ridiculously easy choice.
To go back to like what we were talking about just a moment ago, I don't think that most brands are nefarious. Some of them are. Most aren't. But I think the problem comes down to creating a product, designing the experience based on our own internal perspective. This is what's going to be easy, or this is what's going to be simple for us internally for our own processes, or this is what we believe our customers want.
Right.
And we haven't taken the time to even find out if our customers actually want that, or to find out if that is an easy experience for our customers. And so we think it's going to be easy. So here's the way it is.
Well, we think it is because we understand our process. It's like when somebody directs you to the website, I couldn't find it. Oh, it's easy. Just go to the very top of the button. It's the third one over. Do the drop-down menu, second from the bottom. And you're like, what? It's not, you designed it. But there's actually an extra element that makes it even more challenging, which is we are also, or those of us who lead businesses or leaders in business, is that we also have to keep our people happy, because this is really difficult time to hire and to retain good employees. And so the pendulum has been swinging, and I think it's been swinging in a really difficult direction for some time now. It's one of the things I admonish organizations all the time, is that if you create policies and procedures to make life easier for your team, but in turn, and by doing so, you make it more difficult for your customers, you need to rethink that. We go to a doctor's office now, we're handed some technology that we were not trained in. I see, so that your receptionist doesn't have to enter the information. Let's give it to the guy who's bleeding profusely from his head. He's the one who should be doing this. Now, we go to the airport, we're tagging our own bags, we're pumping our own gas. I get it, but it adds up. And when things are being added to our plate, I mean, I was still waiting for my employee parking space at Walmart because nobody's, and I'm horrible at this.
Does anyone work there anymore?
You know what? But I think a lot of this is a big experiment. How much are we willing to put up with? I mean, there's a lot of things we want to do by ourselves. We go to the bank. I love the idea. I love the process. I do a gig. I get a nice check. I sit in the back of an Uber on the way to the airport. I take a picture of the check and I deposit it. I love that. But when we force customers to do things because it's easier for us, then there's frustration. And the balance is important. And the perfect example is the grocery store. My shopping cart is overfilled and I'm being directed to self-checkout by the man. And I'm thinking, I don't work here. I don't say that out loud because it sounds demeaning, but the
Right.
point is I'm terrible at it. Every item is an unexpected item in the bagging area,
Yep.
right? And what's going to
Has
take
to
me
be weighed, keyed in.
what's going to take me 45 minutes, they could do in 5. But what they'll say is, no, 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 no. But we give you a choice, but it's not a choice. It's you got one staff checkout lane with 9 carts in a row and 43 self-checkout. It's social engineering. And so to an extent, I'm the voice of that frustrated customer. I don't think I'm smarter than the bean counters at Walmart, but the reality is it's that law of diminishing return, right? You can look at, in a static economic model, a penny saved is a penny earned. But in a dynamic model where people's feelings come into play, at some point we're frustrated enough that we're going to go somewhere else. And they're still trying to figure out what that line. I think Target is just announced recently that they're going to be eliminating a lot of their self-checkout. They're not doing anything for people like over 10 items or something like that. So I think we're all learning. Yeah, I think we're all learning. And I think these companies are smart, but we're seeing some companies just really working at smoothing the process. Of course, Amazon is the gold standard. We're all competing against Amazon and the expectations.
It is.
But then you get others that are going the other way. There was something, I'm based out of Denver, and so Frontier is one of our big hub airlines.
Right.
But a year and a half ago, they announced, I still just baffles me. They announced that they will no longer offer voice support in their customer service line. You can't even pay for it.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Hey, right. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? And they released a press release and it said, we have found that our customers prefer digital options. And I'm like, really? So here you got somebody 80 years old and their flight gets canceled and they're trying to navigate it on their phone. And Melvin, what do we push on here? Right?
Yeah.
I'm not mocking. It's just, like I said, gee, what can go wrong? And the reality is today, smart companies give their customers, their clients, their patients options, choices.
It's recognizing when in a particular interaction, when along the customer journey, does a customer have a particular preference? Because Frontier, customers may choose to communicate and interact digitally, but it may be at this earlier point when they're researching flights, when they're booking flights. But when it comes time where flights canceled or they need immediate action, the best way to get immediate action is to immediately talk to a real person.
Talk to them. And they know this. I think they made the calculus that the cost savings were worth them being the airline of last resort. That's fine. They have every right to be in the position that they want. The rest of us have choices. And because I have audiences waiting on the other end of that flight, that may be 1,000 people that booked a year and a half in advance, I can't take a chance. But that's the reality, is that we have choices and we want to be a preferable choice. So part of it's important, I think, for everybody, if you're in business, is you look at the competitive marketplace. What are customers getting used to from your industry and outside of it? How do they prefer to do business? And sometimes it's hard for longstanding businesses because what they do works and it's always worked. But then you look at companies that were great companies. We're not lamenting the loss of, well, we might be lamenting the loss of Toys R Us, but I guarantee you nobody's struggling to find toys.
Oh, of course.
Nobody struggled. Bed Bath & Beyond, before they went on, they said, we've had some struggles with supply chain and some people were not finding what they were looking. No, we weren't not finding what we wanted at Bed Bath & Beyond. We weren't going to Bed Bath & Beyond anymore.
We weren't even going there,
because we changed. And that's the key, is there's things that worked, solid business practices, but we have changed our expectations for access and immediacy and flexibility and convenience.
That's one of the things that I like to talk about is what's considered simple or easy today isn't going to be considered easy 5 years from now.
Right.
So you may have a brand today that says yes, and customers may agree. This customer experience for this brand is easy. What can we do? Yeah, it's easy today. What can we do to ensure that it remains easy going into the future?
That's a great question. And that's part of the process. When I speak, but I also consult, and I'll work with organizations and do exercises or half or a full day. But one of them I do is ask this specific question, which is sort of, how do we future-proof our engagement? And one of the many questions I ask is, what would your customers love that you don't currently offer? I always say, don't tell us what they love about you. Tell us what they would love if you would do it. And here's another way to ask the question. If your customers could wave a magic wand, what would you do differently? I was working with an organization. I can't say who it is, but
Sure.
you would know them. But I asked them this question. 250 people in the audience, and we crowdsourced 1,200 ideas in 7 minutes. A lot of them were duplicates. And we narrowed it down to 40 and then 10 and then 6 that they would implement. And one of those things you would know, but it came from that session. Literally, it was their idea. It was crowdsourcing their own organization. We've all got our head down. We're working hard, but we put our head up and we look out and say, if your customers could wave a magic wand, what would you do differently? And a lot of what drives the answer to that is, like many organizations, it's the common questions that we say no to. Do you guys do this? It's not something we offer. Is there sufficient volume to justify it? Are organizational leaders or the frontline people, are you documenting requests, complaints, concerns? Look for patterns, look for trends. It's interesting that I work with so many industries. I work with hotel and hospitality and dentistry and financial services. Each of them have something there that we're asked that all the time.
Yeah.
It's telling you something. And my job isn't to say you should be offering that. My admonition is you should be talking about that, right?
That's it.
Put some numbers behind it. Is that something? I think I told the story in the book, or I might have told it in one of my earlier marketing books, about some of the informal ways that we're getting feedback. And I was at a restaurant at Chicago O'Hare at the railing, kind of looking out at the concourse.
Okay. Nice.
And somebody came to the hostess stand and asked her a question. She said, "No, I'm really sorry." And they left in frustration. The next person goes, asked her the same question again. And I'm watching 20 people ask this question over the course of 45 minutes. And you will not be surprised to learn that that question being asked was, do you have a table next to an electrical outlet? At the airport, everybody needs to charge their stuff.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
We see people sitting on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this was pre-pandemic, and I would assume to that extent, but the question I always ask is, do you think she passed that on to her manager? The answer is no. And to be fair, she was great. She worked her butt off. It wasn't that she didn't care. She had a misinterpretation of what her job was. She thought her job was to seat people, and everybody's job is to help build the business. And if they had known that they lost $500 worth of business over the course of that 45 minutes, now we see more and more. There's outlets, but it's that kind of feedback. Right? You're at a restaurant and somebody goes, was everything okay? Look down. If somebody didn't touch their food, there's probably a good indication they didn't like it. There's indications of all of that, but it's all feedback. It's all modifications. And so back to your question about future proofing and it's what do your customers want? Ask them. I'm not saying over survey. Focus groups, take your 10 customers, take them on a super nice weekend somewhere and say, we would love it if you would be our informal advisory board. We'd love to find out it's that question that we ask, why your long-term customers, why do you do business with us? And it's a scary question to ask, right? Because some people are afraid they're going to go, why are we doing it? Are we still, Martha, go put this out for bid, right? But it's an important question because we have to stay on top of it. We have to stay ahead of it. Let your competitors catch up.
And when it comes to sourcing this feedback, I think a lot of times senior leaders will look to themselves and look to their own little senior leadership offsite.
Sure, we know.
Meeting, sometimes surveys, sometimes bringing in a consultant. And I'm not knocking consultants, not knocking you, but we tend to forget about one of the most valuable sources of getting that feedback is our frontline employees.
Absolutely. And smart companies have VOC, right? Voice of the customer programs, more formal programs for how they're getting feedback. But there's a lot of informal. Churn is informal feedback, right? Abandoned shopping carts are informal feedback. Look at the behavior. Look at the bottlenecks in your business. And so that's my job. As I go and whether I'm speaking or consulting, sometimes even from a consulting perspective, I'm facilitating and the answers are in the room. It's just asking those kinds of questions. But honestly, I come from a position, Matt, I'm so optimistic. We have so many new resources and technologies and AI when it's used right to find out the answers. We used to say that in marketing. We used to say, I know that half my advertising dollars are wasted. I just don't know which half. Well, today we do. Yeah. We know exactly.
You can tell.
There's so much information that we can glean. And so anyway, the new book is about spurring those conversations, helping you notice things that you wouldn't. I have one chapter is ridiculously easy to see. I'm 60 years old and half the spending in America is people over 50, yet all the marketing collateral is created by people under 40. I can't read menus anymore. I can't read business cards. And so it's all of those details that help a company become ridiculously easy.
I'm trying to remember where I read this recently. It was talking about magazine content and how they wanted to ensure that the design was still good design, aesthetically pleasing, and had enough white space on there.
Yeah. You read that in my book, actually, by the way.
That was it. I'm so
You
sorry.
did.
Yeah.
You read that in my.
Yeah.
We encourage
So-
others, but that's
yeah.
form over function, right?
Yeah.
It's
But
aesthetically
then
pleasing.
trying to cram all that content in there while keeping enough white space puts it down to like a size 8
Think about our
font.
cell phones. We can't. You go to restaurants now and it's a QR code. Well, I understand why they do it. They can update the menu. They can do it.
Yeah.
But do they give an option for other people? Because I always say I can't read it on a phone. Do you have a hard copy I can have as well? And most say yes, and many of them say no.
Right.
And I'm really like, what kind of experience am I going to have? So it's a reminder for all of those things.
That's it. Well, so someone's listening today and they say,
Yes.
okay, I get it. I'm bought in. I get the need for ensuring that my customer experience is ridiculously easy. What are the primary areas where they need to focus first?
Well, first you need to buy this exciting new book called Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With.
Step one.
I don't know that there is a first, because I have a lot of respect for people in business. I think they're doing the basics. I think they're doing everything that they know to do. It's the things that they haven't thought about. But it is basic things like walk your own journey. It's try to reach a real person. The things that frustrate you, I guarantee also frustrate your customers. And that's the part that's mind-boggling, is that there's things that we all know that we hate, and yet why do we replicate those? And we do it because it's smart business. You know, there's a really touchy chapter that I wrote, and I acknowledge that it's a very touchy chapter on we have to be ridiculously easy to understand. And I have great respect for people who speak broken English, I think I said, because it means they speak another language. I don't.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody on your front line that people can't understand, that interferes with commerce. And it's not a lack of respect. There should be, there's basic tests that if you want to be a computer programmer, you have to know how to code. And if you're going to be the person on the front line, we have to be able to understand. We've all been in a situation that hurts our heart, that we either ask for a supervisor or we hang up and we call back hoping it's somebody else on the line. When I say walk your customer's journey, is literally look at all those. Are things unnecessarily complicated? Did it take longer? The fact that you know that this is how long it takes doesn't make them less impatient. It just makes it more imperative that we either try to expedite or that we better communicate the reason for a particular delay. So it's really taken a step back. But it's taking time to examine all those points of contact and ask the question, is that the way it should be done? I mean, it's how you do it. Maybe it's how your industry done it, but could it be done better or faster or more simplified? And I think that's an important part. And I think we need to do it on a regular basis.
I think so. And it's understanding, how do our customers feel during this interaction?
It's incredibly important. And we know that we do business with people we like and trust and know. Don't be ones that frustrate them. And our customers aren't expendable.
That's right. When we talk about walking through our own customer journey, something else that I like to teach is whenever you go through a poor experience somewhere, if you're trying to get an issue resolved with another company and the response time is too long, or you have like a 30-minute phone call wait and it frustrates you, go back to your team and say, hey, here's what I just experienced. Does this happen in our customer journey at any point?
Great question.
If so, let's get rid of it now.
Right. I mean, it's a big part of it that's just intuitive, but it's saying it's simple doesn't mean it's easy, because it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
We cannot staff up that everybody can reach somebody within 15 seconds, 24 hours a day. It doesn't make sense. But I think your customers are reasonable. I don't expect I get my hair cut at 4 a.m, but I expect that I can make an appointment to do so.
Yeah.
Or change that appointment, right? And throughout the book, I have a lot of examples of companies that do it right and things to aspire to and emulate as well. So it was a fun process. And then tapping a lot of research and some wonderful friends and colleagues, Jay Baer and Shep Hyken and others as well. Always want to give them a nice shout out, because we're all trying to do good work and help people feed their families.
That's it. We're trying to help other companies not only survive and stay in business, but like actually thrive by being able to better help their customers.
And future-proof their engagement so that they're still around in 18 months and 3 years.
That's it. Yeah. So that they can continue to be ridiculously easy to do business.
There you go.
David, last question for you. If you were to create a 5-song playlist for ridiculously easy to do business with, what songs would you include?
There's one that's an obvious one. I actually put at the beginning, which is Lionel Richie, right? Easy like Sunday morning. Because I'm easy like Sunday morning. Here's the other ones that if there's themes along this. The Police had a great song, I'll Be Watching You, because we're watching.
Oh,
you got to do business as if every one of your customers or clients is armed with a video camera, because they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can't be human, but everything's being watched and recorded. I love Phil Collins and Philip Bailey with Easy Lover. Giving up, right?
Yeah.
So once again, just throw out the easy thing. Paul Simon, of course, with 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Incredibly important because we leave. Loyalty is not dead. It's harder to earn. It's harder to keep because it's easy to leave you. Lots of alternatives. And the last one is if you really frustrate and you're inflexible, it's Taylor Swift. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. There you go. There's the top of my list. Taylor Swift. We are never, ever, ever, ever getting back together. Don't lose your clients. Don't be frustrating. It's more than your quality. People think at the end of the day, it's about quality. Not true.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the day, it's about quality. Quality is the entry fee. Quality is table stakes.
Table stakes, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about competitive advantage. It's not what do you do well, what do you do better than others who do it well, and what do we value as customers? Companies that are ridiculously easy to do business with.
Yeah. And it's sad to say that that's where we are today, but where we are today is being ridiculously easy to do business with is the way to stand out.
It's a great time to be a customer. It's a great time. It's a hard time to be in business.
Well, David, where can people go to learn more from you?
Sure. It's just my name online, David Avrin, Avrin. Just go to davidavrin.com. On Instagram and TikTok and others, it's The Real David Avrin. That's a whole other catfish for another day. But yeah, just search me online. I speak and I consult in a number of books, but it's the new book. This is the one that is, I think, the culmination of everything and an easy read. You'll hear my voice when you read it.
Oh, nice. Yep. I enjoyed the book. I can't wait for everyone else to go out and read it. So thank you. Thank you so much for your lessons. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, my friend.
I hope you enjoyed my discussion with David Avrin. You can learn more from him at davidavrin.com. From consulting to workshops to keynotes, you'll find lots of ways for David to work with your team to create customer experience that's ridiculously easy for your customers. And if you're enjoying the Simple Brand podcast, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's going to make it so much simpler for you to get future episodes like the next one featuring the Queen of CX, Blake Morgan. We'll be discussing lessons from her latest book, The 8 Laws of Customer Focused Leadership, the new rules for building a business around today's customer. So go ahead and subscribe. You'll automatically get Blake's episode as soon as it's live. Until then, keep it simple.